In this portion of the simulation, we're focusing only on the environment that we created, the Northeast environment. You can see if you click on, if you look down, if you click here, click to view, you can see the shift to focus on the Northwest environment and the Southeast environment that the simulation provided for us. If we start this scenario, then it's going to walk us through mutations that have occurred in each of these regions. So we're going to take some time to look through each of these as they happen. And it looks as though, okay, let's get started and see what happens. In our first scenario, if you look in the Northwest and the Southeast region, there are two mutations that have occurred. In the Northwest, the first mutation is that the beak is more curved. So let's see how that's affecting our population. Now there is more nectar producing flowers in this region. So that should be beneficial. We'll see. And in Southeast, the mutation is that the beak is less curved, and there is plenty of nectar here in this environment. So there are also no other food sources in this environment. So I predict that that wouldn't be a very favorable mutation. Let's see what happens. So in fact, in the Northwest mutation, the offspring were more fit because there are food sources there. Over time, most of the population has changed its phenotype. Some of the non-mutated birds still survive. So the mutation toward a more curved beak shape was more fit. In the Southeast, the mutated offspring were less fit, so it's no longer present in the population. It looks like up in the Northeast, our birds are on the decline across all three populations. Our fingers in the Northwest, I should say. Excuse me, in the Northwest, all three of our birds are in decline across all three populations. So keep our fingers crossed that we survive. In our Northeast population, we've had a mutation in the first population. The beak is more curved, which would be more fit for nectar, which we don't have any of. And the second population has a mutation where the body size is larger. And remember, when you're dealing with predators, a larger body size is more beneficial. Let's skip down here to the Southeast, where we've seen a mutation pop up in the second population. Excuse me. The mutation is that the beak is shorter. There are no food sources yet that would benefit from a short beak, so that's probably not a more fit selection. Also, we need to note that there are now predators in this environment. Let's see what happens to these mutations. All right, so as we predicted, the mutation in the first population was less fit because there's no need for a curved beak. And the mutation made the second population, the mutation made the offspring better mates. So that became more common in the population. Sorry, let's make sure we look at the right. Yep, so there was no nectar forming flowers in that one. I had the wrong one selected, but the same results applied. In the Southeast, the offspring that mutated were less fit, like we said, because that type of beak would be better fit for one of these two types of food. And they didn't stick around in the population because it didn't really benefit them. So in our populations, it looks like two of the three are on the decline, and we're finally bouncing back because of that population mutation in the second population. Let's see what happens. We're at 650,000 years have passed. Let's look at each one in turn. In our northeast population that we designed, the foliage has changed from a brownish orange to a golden yellow, so the color has changed a bit. We are still in decline for 2 of our 3 populations. There has not been any new mutations, so the only thing that's changed is the environment has changed background color. In the Northwest, there were 2 mutations. In the first population, the body size became larger. Now, there is no predators yet in this population, but they seem to be all thriving in the Northwest with all of this food sources available. So, um, I'm curious to see how the body size affects it. And in the third population, the body size is larger. Both population had a mutation where the body size became larger. All right, the third region, the southeast, wow, we've had a rapid decline. So in this more green region, if you remember, there were no seeds or insects, but lots of flowering plants. Um, it's kind of unusual for a habitat, but that's okay. We've noticed that 2 of the 3 populations in that region have completely died off. In the first one, in the remaining population, we still see it is um, medium body size, dark green plumage, so it fits into the environment very well. Oh, that's probably what's happening, don't you think? The beak is curved, which is good for the flowers, and the body size is dark green, which blends in with the environment. Because there are predators, that's probably a benefit. Let's see what happens next. 650,000 years we're at. Okay, so something else has recently happened here in the Northwest. In populations 1 and 3, oh, these are the results. I apologize. So remember how we said in populations 1 and 3, the mutations made the body size larger. It made the offspring more fit. More of the population has this phenotype. So overall, across the board, the birds in the Northwest are getting bigger. All right, let's resume. We're at 700,000 years have passed. In the Northeast, they've mutated a longer beak in the third population. So we'll see that might be beneficial for insects. In the Northwest, the mutation was less curved, but they have so many food resources. I'm assuming it's not going to affect them greatly either way, or at least not harm them. And then in the Southeast, the mutation was that the plumage became light green. So it's become farther from the foliage. Let's see what happens. So in the Northeast, they got longer. The beak got longer, and that was actually more fit. So you see that population has a longer beak overall. In the Northwest, the offspring were more fit, and um, they became, it didn't really matter. Remember, there's so many food sources, or the Northwest. There's no more flowers in this one. In the Southeast, the offspring were not more or less fit, but the phenotype made them susceptible to disease and they died off. So the lighter green color wasn't beneficial or harmful, but made them more susceptible to a disease. So in that regard, it was less fit. 750,000 years later, in the Northeast, in the third population, the beak is less curved. Probably a benefit since there's no pollen flowers or nectar flowers there. In the Northwest, the first population has a shorter beak and the third one has a more curved beak. Still so many food sources, so it's hard to judge whether that's going to affect them either way. No changes in the Southeast yet. And again, as we predicted, the beak shape made them more fit in all 3 examples. So we had this population still sticking around, this version of the original still sticking around in the population. We're at 750,000. Let's see what happens at 100,000, 800,000 years. In the northeast, our habitat, the beak is longer in the second population, which should be beneficial because it'll help them with the insects. In the northwest, the first population has a smaller body size. There's no predators, so that shouldn't really affect them. The plumage is light green in the third population, but the foliage is dark brown, so maybe that will be harmful. There is also no more nectar, so they're down to these two food sources. So this one has a slightly curved beak, slightly curved, slightly curved. So since there's no more nectar sources, so we're curious to see how that affects them overall. Our smallest, or our last remaining bird population in the southeast is not doing well. Their numbers are pink, which means they're declining. Also, to note, in the northeast, the second population's numbers are declining as well. Although the northwest is still rocking it. All right, so from the second mutation, didn't really affect them either way in relation to food or predators. Okay, but it made them more susceptible to the disease for some reason. So that didn't stick around in the population. In the northwest, the offspring were more fit. Over time, most of the population has the phenotype. So remember, they were moving toward larger, longer beaks and bigger bodies. Okay. 850,000 years, the beak is left. When in the northeast, where there's no nectar source, mutation in the beak is less curved, would probably be beneficial. There are no changes in the northwest, and in the southeast, they had a change where the beak is longer. And that would probably be better since they have to rely on nectar. So I'm assuming both of these two, if not negative, would at least be positive. Let's see what happens. The offspring were more fit in the northeast, so that bore out. And as well in the southeast, the mutation, I would have assumed, made them easier for food sources, but looks like they were also more attractive to mates. They must like curved beaks. Okay, 900,000 years, and we're almost done. In the northwest, we've had two changes, two mutations, and one change to the environment. So let's see, northwest, they had all kinds of food relevant, and now they have their nectar back. So they had lost it before, and now it's returned. The first mutation in the, I should say, the first population of the beak is longer. I don't think that'll hurt them overall. And in the second one, the plumage is light green. So that will make them maybe blend in better. So we'll see what happens with that population. And in the southeast, the foliage has changed from dark to light green. So these now stick out more. We'll see what happens because they do have predators there. All right, number 1 and 2, both of those were more fit, as we predicted. And in the southeast, it doesn't seem to make any changes. There's no changes yet. They haven't had a chance to adapt because it was just a habitat change, not a population change. So let's see how that light green population maybe affects that. That light green habitat, I should say, affects that population. Okay, in the north southeast, we haven't had any changes. So far, this light green habitat change hasn't spurred any changes in the population yet, although the numbers are a little bit on the rise. In the northwest, the first population had a mutation where the beak is longer, but the nectar is no longer available to them. And they seem to be doing well across the board in terms of their numbers. So we'll see how a longer beak affects. They have more seeds, which is better for short beaks, so we'll see. In the Northeast, our environment that we designed, the mutation shows us that the plumage turned to light green, which might blend in better with our very bright habitat. But the seeds are no longer available. Oh, goodness. So look, we went from some seeds to no seeds. We still have plenty of insects, though. So let's take a look at the beaks. Medium and straight, so medium length, medium and curved, and medium, long, and straight. So I predict, which we're already seeing here, this beak, this bird with this slightly curved beak. See how the numbers are decreasing because they're in pink? I bet it's because of this pink color and the fact that they're green and there's predators. But I bet this will not be a very good mutation for them. Let's see what happens with the. Okay, so again, when we looked at the Northeast, we had predicted that the more curved beak would be less fit. This phenotype is no longer present, so didn't affect it enough to stick around. In the Northwest, they had lost their nectar. The offspring with the longer beak was more fit. No major changes in the Southeast, although their numbers are holding. They're not pink yet, so they're still good. One more round. We're almost done. Okay, and so what we see from here is, as we predicted, without any nectar sources, the curved beak and the brightly colored sticking out has eliminated this second population of birds in our arid habitat. The Northwest numbers are still thriving. That must be where the best habitat for these types of birds are. Maybe in another 100,000, or I should say million years, we'd see more changes due to natural changes in the environment. And in the Southwest, I think if we had gone through this a couple more times, you'd probably find, unless something drastically changed, this population would also be on the way out, if not extinct. So those are our results. Let's just recap. In the Northeast, which was arid, there were no seeds and no flowering plants for nectar, although there were plenty of insects. So long straight beaks, brown plumage, small to medium body size. Medium straight beak, light plumage, small to medium body size. So you can tell that these two have evolved in the same direction. The only difference between these two populations is that this first population has a slightly smaller, a slightly shorter beak. Now in the Northwest, which seems like utopia for this type of bird, we have three varieties. We have plenty of seeds, some insects, no nectar at this point, but no predators. So medium long curved beak, medium curved beak, medium slightly curved beak. And you can remember they were curved for quite a while because there was nectar sometimes and then no nectar and then the nectar came back. So their beak slight curvature kind of pervaded throughout their population. Even though there's none now, there might be nectar again in the next 50,000 years. Light green, light brown, medium small, medium small, medium. So these are very similar birds. It would be hard, aside from the color, to tell them apart unless you're a real bird enthusiast. So they have all evolved in the same direction as well. No, poor southeast birds. Let's see. One of the three populations survived. Medium long curved beak, because the only food source was the flowering nectaring plants, and dark green plumage. We were interested to see how that would turn out because there are some predators, small to medium body size. And those are the results. You'll talk amongst yourselves and compare them with other groups, how the habitat they selected turned out.